Thank you very much for this introduction. Yeah, it's actually quite fun to be on the INDIGO side from the podium from the other side. I've been running around previous years, arranging everything at the back end, and it's fun to be on the stage for a while. So currently I'm still wrapping up everything that has to do with Dutch Game Garden. And the past months I've been working on the Games Monitor as a sort of side project, which is quite a large side project. And starting next week, I will join CIIIC program as the program secretary, and will work together with Helene Rauw, for instance, on the development of immersive experiences and how we can let that part of the industry grow. I see a lot of people walking in still, so I'm a bit stalling, and I know that Rami is going to make the switch from that room to here, so since he's the government official from or the government representative for the Dutch Games Association, I know he wanted to hear this story as well. So I'll see if he's making the crossing or... Yeah, he's coming. Yeah, so it's a lot of rumor, a lot of people coming in, so I wait a few seconds. A lot of people coming in. It's a popular talk. Yep, great. So thank you very much. For those of you who just joined, you haven't missed anything. I only introduced myself. So I will present to you the results of the Games Monitor for 2024. It was actually nice to see the Belgian numbers in the previous presentation, but there are similarities in what I will present, but also a lot of things that are different because it's a different kind of report. So for us, it's the fifth full edition of the Games Monitor report. We did a few sort of in-between versions, but this is a new full version. And I'm actually quite honored to be able to present this, because last year we announced that Dutch Game Garden was going to cease its activities this year. And the Dutch Games Association quickly stood up and said, but this is really important, we should keep this for the industry. And together we wrote a proposal, and we're very happy that the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science said, this is important, we recognize this, and we are going to fund it. So big thanks to them. And I'm also very happy that I didn't have to do it alone, but that I had two great co-authors who actually felt like colleagues the past 2 months. They are over there, Matthijs Dirks and Arjan Terpstra. And for the Facts and Figures report, we also worked with Walter Mansholden from NEO Observatory. So before I dive into the numbers, there are some considerations that I want to deal or share with you before we compare everything with the Belgian numbers as well. Our definition of a game company is that it has to be represented in the value chain of the game development ecosystem, and it has to be a core activity. So we know that there are many more companies who do something with games or develop games, such as IT companies, consultancy companies, digital media firms, larger government organizations such as Michel with his crew in Den Helder. They are not part of this report. We continuously revise the database of companies, and this year we did two larger revisions. One was in the way how we calculate companies with multiple legal entities, and we had a major revision in the way we calculate revenues. So it is called Games Monitor 2024, but some numbers are up until the end of 2023 because we use national databases, which at the time of writing were only available for the year 2023. But the actual survey we did in the games industry was held at the beginning of this year. So we do have some information about 2024, and we did several interviews and a roundtable discussion also earlier this year. So that has actual, the actual developments taken into account. So these are the current numbers. We counted 41 educational programs throughout the Netherlands, and by the end of 2023, we counted 614 companies in the game ecosystem in the Netherlands, who together had almost 4,300 jobs and a total revenue of 763 million euros. So how does it compare to previous editions? There was a small growth in the number of companies, mostly small companies, and between 2021 and 2023, a steady growth in revenues. Good news to share your news. But for the first time, we saw a decrease in the number of employment. Now, part of that is due to layoffs. The first trickle-down effects of what's happening in the games industry worldwide were visible in 2023, most notably with the bankruptcy of Ronimo Games. But most of these effects in the Netherlands only took place in 2024. So the decrease in employment in 2023 is mainly due to our judgment of companies, are they still part of the game ecosystem? So there's not layoffs. Those are jobs that we say, oh, those companies have diversified. They are part of a larger company with a broader portfolio of activities, and games are not one of the core activities anymore, and they don't fulfill the criteria of our definition anymore. So they are not layoffs and job losses for the Dutch economy as a whole, only they are part of a different ecosystem. However, if we look into 2024, we don't have the full number yet. We know that there will be a significant job loss in the Netherlands. We've all read the news, companies like Paladin Studios having to shut down, Keoken, reducing the number of people significantly, and several others, including large companies as Guerrilla Games, we know has to reduce their staff. So we do know that 2024 there's job loss. In the making. Well, it has already happened, but we don't have the final numbers yet. So how are these employees divided over company sizes, and where is the growth taking place? So there's some small growth in smaller companies and a stabilization of the number of employees up until 2023 in the larger companies. And what we see is that mostly the mid-sized companies between 11 and 25 employees, that's where a lot of companies struggled already in 2023. That's where there is a loss of almost 300 people. The average number of employees in a Dutch video game company was 7.7 2 years ago, and it is now 7. To put it in perspective, that's still larger than an average Dutch company, because for the Dutch economy, the average number of employees is 4.7. So where are these jobs? In this map, only regions with more than 100 employees are displayed, so that's why there are empty parts in the north and the southern regions. But there are, of course, game companies over there, because they are located all over the Netherlands. But Of the total number of employees, 2/3 of them are located in the 4 large urban regional areas, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, and Utrecht. Within those 4 regions, we've seen a shift. Amsterdam has strengthened its position, and Rotterdam has grown as well, but the Utrecht and The Hague regions have lost some ground. This is actually very much comparable, or to the Flemish numbers. So, for the total games industry in the Netherlands in 2024, because it was based on the survey, 23% of employees identified as female, and almost 4% as other or non-binary. We combined them in our survey. So it keeps rising. It was 13.5% back when we did the first Games Monitor in 2012. A notable part about the Dutch video games industry is that we've always had entertainment games and applied games as a strong focus of companies. In 2023, we counted 210 companies developing entertainment games, 128 developing applied games, and another 20 doing both. But we see that mostly the applied game companies have, the number has decreased a bit. This has to do with what I explained earlier, that we looked at the activities of companies and the type of activities they are doing. And that's one thing we see in applied game companies. The use of applied games or game-inspired innovations is rapidly growing. Immersive experiences, for instance. Play is accepted in a lot of industries as a way of teaching people, developing and training their talents. But a lot of that development is done by companies that in our report are not defined as game companies. And we see that a lot of those companies are also broadening their portfolios and services, and games are just one of the type of solutions they offer to their clients. It's also interesting to note that several applied game companies don't use the word game in their branding anymore. So they use completely different terms, or sometimes they just profile themselves as an IT company, but when a potential client is interested in games, then they expand about their experience in that field and use it as a unique selling point, but it's not the initial branding. The annual reported revenue, as reported in the survey, so this is not a complete representation of the Dutch games industry. Oh yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention. There were about 150 companies who participated in our survey. And for the other companies, we used national databases, etc., to help us calculate the totals. But so this is from the survey. It reflects the size of the companies. Nearly half earns less than 100,000 euros, and about 1 in 5 surpasses the 1 million euros revenue. What was also striking for us from the survey was that companies indicated they or seem to indicate that they have less ambition to grow. In previous editions, we saw about 78% of companies saying, yes, we want to grow, and that has decreased to 65%. And if we compare applied and entertainment games, then it's even more apparent for entertainment games than for applied game companies. So this obviously has to do with the turbulent market. When you're struggling to survive, then growth is a next step and not your first ambition. But we also heard in the roundtable that growth is not easy, and it challenges an entrepreneur, and it forces you to take a lot of decisions that not everybody is willing to make. So basically all across the board we see that the means in how they want to grow are less than in previous surveys, reflecting that lower ambition to grow. But then if we asked about if you want to grow, then for how much money are you looking for? And then we see that they are continue to look for larger amounts of budgets. So especially the €500,000 to €1 million range has risen a lot. So in the report we also mentioned several mergers, investments, and other developments. We still saw deals being made in 2023 despite the global downturn, because also it takes a bit of time before a deal actually is made public. But also in 2024, but it was a bit lower than before. But still, deals are being made. This is one slide with which is concerning. In 2022, just 5% of companies felt that they are not doing well. This year, 16% indicates that they are not doing well. So that's not good news. They are really struggling. And it indicates that there's more trouble ahead. It is harder to get publishing deals, for instance. What we also see is that the companies in the survey are way more pessimistic about both how the Dutch games industry doing is at the moment, but also for the future of the Dutch games industry. So we feel each other's pain, so to speak. And obviously it also has a lot to do with the global state of the video games industry. I'm going to leave it at that. So I already mentioned the number of educational programs, 41. This is how they are spread in the Netherlands. The number of programs has stabilized compared to the last edition. We saw some shifts between schools, and we saw a further continuation of a trend we wrote about earlier, that games are part of a larger curriculum and are not mentioned specifically in the description of the educational program, so not used as marketing instrument, but it's more like the profiles that people have when they graduate. So therefore, we also looked a bit differently at how we decided, okay, is this a game education program, yes or no? And we looked more at, like, if people finish this school, are they sort of industry ready? I mean, everybody still has to learn a lot, but that was more the way we looked at it. So it didn't lead to great changes at the moment, but it might be in the future. Some smaller things that were mentioned in the report. I mean, there's a lot more. I pick a few things. The Dutch video games industry remains very much a PC-focused industry. Many of them publish on or develop games for multiple platforms. The mobile seems to be quite large if you look at this figure, but if we look at the distribution channels companies use, then we see that Steam is by far the most important channel, mentioned by 70%, and even by 50% as their primary channel. And then you see that, yes, some focus specifically on on mobile, but that's only a small number. Then, for the first time, there was a new topic that we added to the survey is the theme of generative AI. Matthijs had a lot of fun writing this chapter. So we asked two questions. One was about the views on so that's more like their opinion on generative AI. So people really see it as a serious development that has offers a lot of opportunities for game development. 2/3 see new opportunities. They could give more than one answer, so that's why it doesn't add up to 100. But we also see that there's a group of almost a quarter of the companies who's seriously against the use of generative AI. One of the quotes in the survey was, "I don't want to be replaced by a robot." More interestingly is that we also asked about the actual use of generative AI. Almost half of the companies in the survey use generative AI tools, particularly for programming, and mostly in the concept phase of game development, also for art and text, and the use of generative AI for the actual game and what the player is interacting with is significantly lower. But a lot of companies do see opportunities in basically every aspect of generative AI. Also, for this theme, we compared entertainment games to applied games, and in this field as well, the applied games companies are using generative AI more often than entertainment games. This probably has to do with the main platform for entertainment games, Steam, which has these checkboxes you have to use if you are using generative AI. A lot of gamers are pretty outspoken about generative AI, so entertainment games are a little bit more reluctant, or well, I don't know if that's the correct word, but more careful to use generative AI, while clients of applied game companies are looking at it from a completely different perspective. So that was some of the highlights of the report I wanted to present. We've made 2 editions of the report, a short fact sheet with a management summary, which is available at the door or maybe at the registration when you leave INDIGO, but you can take a copy home if you like, and a full report, more than 80 pages, who wants to dive into more detailed analysis. Both of them will be available on the Dutch Games Association website, and from 3 o'clock onwards. So if you look now, it's still empty, but in a short while it will be available. And in the back of the printed version of the fact sheet, there's a QR code to the Dutch Games Association websites where you can find both of the reports. Once again, thank you to our partners, and I'm open to questions. So actually, I'm only holding it for the first time. I hadn't seen the printed version yet. So maybe I should offer it to Samantha as representative of.
Thank you.
Did anyone have a question for Christel?
Thank you for the presentation. One question I have is, compared to the previous reports, I noticed a very big raise in the revenue of the industry in the Netherlands. Could you explain how?
Yeah, we changed the model quite a lot because since we did it now for the 5th time, we have a lot more data available, and we noticed that we calculated it way too low in previous editions. So Walter Manshanden did a complete redo of the model in how we calculate it, and especially in how, so we have these categories in how the division of companies within this category is, but especially also in the high end, because it used to be a 1 million plus category, and now it's a 10 million plus. But yeah, is it 10 million and €1, or is it more than 100 million? Yeah, we found out that we were way too conservative in the past. So we changed our model, and it fits with what companies reported in the survey, or what we could find for some of them in public data.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
To what extent do very large companies like Guerrilla Games inflate the numbers you see in these reports?
Guerrilla Games, yes, obviously it's the largest company in terms of employees, so it definitely has a huge impact on the numbers. For them, we don't know the actual revenues in the Netherlands, so it's just an average based on an employee count, in the model. But for instance, Azerion, as a publicly listed company on the stock exchange, there we use their annual report, so public data. And then we didn't calculate the entire revenue of Azerion, but we made an educated guess of which part of that revenue can be, how do you say that, can be attributed to the Netherlands.
Maybe a final question to ask yourself. When will the next one?
I don't know. You were looking for volunteers or what?
Rami's on it. Okay. One last question.
Question from this side. There were only 150 participants in this year's monitor, but there was 400 companies listed, right? How does that reflect in the numbers? Like, is this a smaller amount of developers entering the games monitor, and does that reflect in the numbers, or has that been accounted for in the report?
No, so we calculated complete population of more than 600 companies for a number of companies, employees, and revenue. And we use all different kind of sources, including some national databases and public sources available. So, for instance, for employees, we use the survey, but also another national survey called LISA. And if we couldn't find numbers from those surveys, then we looked at websites and LinkedIn profiles and stuff like that. So every company has a number of employees behind its name. But a more qualitative analysis, those are based on the survey, and that's just the 150 companies that filled out the survey.
Is that above average or comparable to previous?
It's comparable. It's a bit lower than the previous edition, but it's still significant. That's not the correct term, but anyway, you understand what I mean. Yeah.
JP, you know Christel. You can talk to her after, because a lot of people will want to start their coffee break. But go on. Last question. Comment.